Welcome back, everybody. Today is, well, I don't know what day it is, but today we are going to talk a little bit about TED Talks and some public speaking and presentation techniques that can help you deliver the best speeches that you can. First of all, what is a TED Talk? A lot of you might be familiar with it, but for those who are not, TED is an acronym TED. T, technology, E, education, D, design. A TED Talk is a very popular format of speech in which researchers and practitioners love to share their ideas by giving a talk that is about 18 minutes or less. TED has a motto, which is ideas worth spreading. So the TED speech is a new format of speech that emphasizes visuals and compressed time frame. The maximum talk is only 18 minutes, and a use of more dramatic gesture or creative presentations of information. For anybody who is interested in some further reading on this topic, I gleaned most of these insights from a book called Talk Like TED by Carmine Gallo. So, if you're interested in exploring some of these public speaking techniques in greater depth, or perhaps finding some inspiration for a future presentation, this is the book for you. So, in his book, Gallo talks about 9 different presentation techniques that he sees many different TED speakers use to deliver dynamic, interesting, and compelling presentations and speeches. For the sake of this lecture, I've chosen 5 that I think will apply well to this class. And so the first one is master the art of storytelling. Human beings evolved to tell stories. Way back in the old caveman days, 10, 20,000 years ago, when people would sit around a fire and they would tell the history of their people through stories. Human beings, we have the brain wiring to remember information and concepts through stories. Stories are what draws our attention. Stories are what keep us coming back for more. That is why movies and television shows and novels are so popular. We are drawn to compelling and interesting stories. As Gallo writes, stories turn abstract concepts into emotional, tangible ideas. We tend to remember things better when it's more connected to our emotions, and storytelling is a really good way to unleash that emotional potential. As one TED speaker, Brene Brown, once put it, stories are data with a soul. So if you have a lot of interesting facts or figures that you want to make more interesting to an audience, sometimes talking about it in a story can be a lot more helpful. And finally, as Gallo writes, stories are who we are. We all want affirmation that our lives have meaning, and nothing does greater affirmation than when we have our experience affirmed through a story. And one is from a woman named Lisa Christine.
I'm 150 feet down an illegal mine shaft in Ghana. The air is thick with heat and dust, and it's hard to breathe. I can feel the brush of sweaty bodies passing me in the darkness, but I can't see much else. I hear voices talking, but mostly the shaft is this cacophony of men coughing and stone being broken with primitive tools. Like the others, I wear a flickering, cheap flashlight tied to my hair with this elastic, tattered band, and I can barely make out the slick tree limbs holding up the walls of the 3-foot square hole, dropping hundreds of feet into the earth. When my hand slips, I suddenly remember a miner I had met days before who had lost his grip and fell countless feet down that shaft. As I stand talking to you today, these men are still deep in that hole, risking their lives without payment or compensation, and often dying. I got to climb out of that hole, and I got to go home. But they likely never will, because they're trapped in slavery.